Discovery Collective podcast. My name is Emily, this is Denis, and this is podcast number 1.
Welcome.
Welcome.
How exciting. The first podcast.
Yeah, and if you're watching us visually, welcome. If all you can hear is audio, welcome. We have been having conversations for a while, and now that's culminated in this podcast. So let's get some introductions underway.
Okay. Well, my name is Denis Beliveau. I'm an entrepreneur. I am a father. I am a husband, a mate, a friend. I'm a seeker of experience in life. I've got an extreme sports background. I'm Canadian. I've been living in Australia for 25 years. I'm just a normal guy, just trying to figure things out.
And I would probably add to that. Can I add to your introduction?
You can add, and I'll add to yours.
What I would add to that introduction, entrepreneur, yes. Father, yes. Seeker, yes. Normal human bumbling their way through the world, yes. And then probably would also say, I don't know what the word is. Perhaps in ancient times, there was always someone in the village or someone in the tribe who was able to see the best in others, whose presence was healing, whose presence was inspiring, whose presence was motivating. Now we kind of default to looking for that person in celebrities or in gurus, and we forget to just look for them in our lives. But I feel like you're that person, or that's how I experience you, and I know how that's a lot of other people that I know experience you. So that was probably what I would add to the introduction. Village healer, black motivator,
idiot, village idiot as well. You got to add the idiot in it.
Maybe a dash of idiot.
Dash of village idiot, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm Emily. I am a psychologist by trade. But I probably find it really hard to stay in that narrow box. I feel like I've never been able to stay in a narrow box. So while I'm a psychologist by trade, I've done study as well in philosophy and writing and neuroscience, and just trying to really expand that window of what it means to be a psychologist. I feel like it became a very narrow job description, whereas I feel like back in the day, it probably wasn't. It was something a lot more expansive than that. You know, there are ways that we can heal that don't just fit into sitting down with someone on a couch for an hour. So my interest has always been around how can I support other human beings to tap into that innate sense of who they are and to fully live that out and consider what is in their way. So psychologist by trade, but also a bit rebellious and defiant, so always looking for ways that I can break out of that psychology box. Like Denis too, an action sport enthusiast for sure, mountain biker, snowboarder, wakeboarder, just lover of all things exciting, lover of all things in the natural world, and that's probably a huge part of who I am in my experience. And I think that identity informs the psychologist identity, and the psychologist identity informs that identity as well. So as well as just normal human being bumbling her way through life.
Can I add to a little bit of that as well?
Add to my introduction.
I have to say, Emily's like, there's always someone within the tribe or the village or the team that can see a way through the light. Like there's always someone and they annoy you sometimes because you want to wallow in pity. You want to give up, and then all of a sudden, no, we can do this. Emily has this innate ability to foster enthusiasm like no one I've ever met in my life. She's the eternal optimist, and there's always a way. And you have a very special gift to be able to share that with people. And I think that would have served you as a child. All the way through life. So being a psychologist, I think that's just one of these tools that you have in your box that you use, but it's just something that you have. And fundamentally, the eternal optimist who always finds light and able to cultivate hope in even the most dire circumstances. So, yeah. I think that's,
I'm going to take that. Usually I'm terrible.
you know, you have to, you got no choice. It wasn't an option, was it?
I'm like, oh, how can I avoid this? Like, how can I dig myself a hole and bury myself in there? But I kind of like to think that everyone in the world has their own sort of superpower, like that thing that they were born with that just allows them to make it through the world. And it's so different for everyone. I mean, having sat with, literally thousands and thousands of people in my life in this role, you've just got to be curious about what that thing is inside that person that makes them so incredibly unique. And yeah, I think you're probably right. Eternal optimism. This is just what the universe has decided to gift me with, and it's a blessing and a curse. But for the most part, it's something that I'm excited to be able to share with other people, because other people can lose that a lot. That optimism.
Well, going back to that superpower, so you just said something really powerful then. So we get so caught up in our day-to-day existence and what we're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, isn't that what it is? Like in our life, like we're constantly, oh, you haven't achieved this, or you're not that, because we're comparing ourselves to there's so much comparison currently right now with all the social media. Everybody's living these amazing lives and all these Instagram posts, and like people are following this thing. So there's something in that superpower thing at the moment.
Yeah, we live in a deficit world. We're always looking for like what's missing or what's next or what I don't have or what she has or what he has. And it just erodes our sense of mental well-being. It erodes our own identity, because we're never interested in looking inside us and being like, what's unique and special about me? Because we see that as sort of being some kind of ego thing. But I think we just need to be able to be as curious about our own strengths, not in an egoic way, like I'm better than you, but just in what can I offer I see it more like it's my duty as a human being on this planet to think about in what ways I can contribute to the world around me. Otherwise, what am I even here for? And in order to contribute, I need to look inside myself and think about what is that thing I have to offer. Because how can I make a contribution if I don't understand what it is I have to offer? And I see that in you as well. I think we're both kind of have that.
Love that. Yes.
Yeah.
I do seek that in others, and that's how I get drawn to people, and people that I feel comfortable with. I'm a feeler of energy, so you sense things pretty much very quickly, and I trust that now. When I was younger, I didn't really know what that meant. But I know when I'm comfortable with someone that they're comfortable within themselves, and even if they are troubled or what have you, that they know that shining light on that and kind of bringing that to the surface. Again, as you said, not for ego, in a sense of I am good at this, and it's important to know that you are, and then because we live in a world of we're not, or I find we are. No, not necessarily, but because I've come off, I think last Tuesday, I've deleted all my social media apps off my phone, and what a great week it's been.
Yeah, because you're not bombarded with with these kind of inadvertent messages that you're not enough. They're not meant to be like that. For the most part, people are just like, this is my highlight reel, or these brands are like, this is my brand ambassador or whatever. But I think we're so trained to see that as a threat to who we are, or some sign that we're not good enough, or getting caught up in other people's lives and other people's stories. And we just lose our own story. We forget about who it is that we are in the world, because we're following 50,000 other people's stories, and we're more interested in that, and we're valuing their stories more than we are our own experience. We become distracted from who it is that we are and what it is that we're doing in the world.
So for me, I guess there's more the division that was being
so much
cut through. Like it's not, I'm not, I think as you're the same, and I don't really compare. I look at everybody's life. I know that, what they're putting up there is, as my post, I do take the best photo of the 3 shots that were taken, just naturally. But ideally, I'm not doing it for vanity purposes. I'm not looking at people, but I just found of just spending so much energy, so much time, I guess, looking for wisdom, and there's a connection piece. I just, connected with someone I hadn't spoken to in over 30 years yesterday. And we went to college together, and we're great friends. And then just life, you know, I moved to Australia, she'd stayed in Canada, and just found her on social media yesterday. And we had this amazing conversation. And that's the beauty of it, you know. And if I can use it just for that, it's wonderful. But the tax of it is it's all the other things and getting caught wasting time. So now coming off the phone, it's been phenomenal. Now I have to use it on my laptop, and, you know, I'm putting a 10-minute timer, and that's it. Go.
And it's like, how do you extract the good in it and leave the rest, you know? And that's not just for social media, it kind of goes for so many things. But that probably, you know, kind of circles us back, I guess, to what we're even doing here on this podcast, or what we're even doing here in terms of the Discovery Collective, which is something that the two of us created, you know, almost 2 years ago now. That is we kind of living in this world at the moment where, as you said, there's lots of division. People feel like they need to pick a side, choose a camp, feeling threatened by other people. There is a time where there is, you know, incredible amounts of suffering, you know, mental health issues, businesses trying but not quite getting there, you know, all of these, you know, there's all of these challenges, but it's also in a time of incredibly rich opportunity. And I guess what we were hoping to do here in this podcast, but perhaps more broadly with what we're doing with the Discovery Collective, is offer an alternative to that division-orientated world, or that individualist-orientated world, or that performance at all costs kind of world. You know, so we're obviously interested in performance. I mean, we're you know, professionals, we're athletes. So, I mean, we've probably got that performance drive woven into who we are. And yes, we want to do things, achieve things, experience things, but we're not interested in that in terms of the cost of our own well-being, or the cost of connection with others, or the cost of contributing to the world around us. So it's like, how, I guess we started this thinking about how can we support our own evolution and other people's evolution and growth and accomplishment in whatever areas they want to do that, but also how can we foster their well-being, and how can we foster connection, and how can we encourage people to harness the gifts that they have to do good in the world. What would you say, Denis, about, I mean, that's a really broad, vague description of the Discovery Collective. What's your sense of what it is that we're trying to do? How would you define it?
I think we had those two questions, you know, what's missing in the coaching world? What's missing in the psychology world? What's missing in all these facets? Like right now, there's so, you know, again, deliver at all costs, be the best at all costs, be the best version of you at all costs. And all these things for me, we're always, you know, no, we are limited. You know, when I hear we're limitless, like, our potential is limited, and there's a comfort in that, but there's a reality in it. And some people, you know, we can agree to disagree. But, you know, we often talk about potential minus interference, and you know, the performance element of it, and unfortunately, interference seems to be a bit more prominent. And if you focus on it, but then for me, I guess the purpose of this was to really spend time discovering what it is that gets the best out of. How can I get the best out of my experience? Firstly, you know, like I guess we started communicating, and how can we share this with others? And that's the concept of the Discovery Collective, is to really discover, you know, certain topics, different concepts, and then share that with our community.
Yeah, and that's and again, I sort of keep referring back to maybe how things were, and I'm not talking about how things were kind of 20 years ago. I mean, I'm probably tapping into something a bit more historic than that, but this idea that we're here to share our wisdom in the world. Like, we're here to be in the world and have experiences, and then collect those experiences and offer and contribute them back to children, communities, nations, friends, you know, partners, etc. You know, we're not here to just hold all this knowledge and wisdom in ourselves and then, you know, die with it still inside us. The idea is that we all have some perspective or some experience that is useful to share. And I guess that's probably what we were trying to do, is saying, as an entrepreneur who's like dived into the business world in a really big way. And as a psychologist who's, spent like, an incredibly long time working with in great intimacy with the human mind, it's like, how can we take those two worlds of industry and entrepreneurship and leadership and innovation and performance, and then psychology and well-being and potential, and how can we combine those in a way that's helpful and useful to others and that weaves in our own lived experience? I think as a psychologist, I was always told, you have to just leave yourself at the door. You have to be this objective robot, and this is old school psychology thinking, and hopefully we've come further than that. But a lot of what I share obviously is my own study, my own experience, all of the theories that I know and understand about, and the same with you. But there's also our own lived experience that we're weaving into that. And that lived experience as seekers and people continually looking for adventure and improvement and experience in the world. So perhaps we were trying to find what was missing in our industries. Do you think that's probably
I think
what
for
we're
sure.
trying to do?
Like we said the other day, this is almost like, it's like a campfire session, when every village would sit around a fire every night, and people would share stories, and they would share knowledge, and we'd learn through our elders. We'd learn through the children. We'd learn through all different, everyone within the community would provide some form of wisdom and knowledge and experience. And nowadays we're overwhelmed. There's so much information, there's so much out there, and really to bring this all back to what for me was what really is important about the experience. How can I get the best out of this? And hanging out with you for the last year and a half, 2 years, I think we've gone through, we've unveiled and discovered so many different concepts and talked about so many different things, and I just found it really fascinating. So I thought we'd share this, because we have these conversations twice a week, and some of them are documented, some of them are not, for the purpose of building something. But at the same token, I think we get a lot out of this, and I think we just wanted to kind of carry out this campfire session.
Totally. And I don't know what it's like, in the entrepreneurial space or the coaching space, but I know sometimes in psychology there's a sense of needing to be the expert. Like there's this pressure to be the expert, and you're the holder of the knowledge, and you're giving this knowledge to other people. And again, this is kind of an old school way of thinking. And I see that a lot at the moment, like experts, they're on social media, they're on a podcast, and they're saying, this is how to achieve happiness. This is how to build your business. This is how to build a brand, whatever. Whereas I guess my hope is that instead of trying to be some kind of experts in something and telling people what to do, is that we can just sit down and have conversations and share wisdom, and hopefully just spark somebody to go on their own journey of discovery. Instead of giving them the answers and saying, this is what you need to do, this is the 10 steps to happiness and wealth and whatever. It's saying, how can we have conversations that spark some kind of thought or idea or process of discovery in you? It's kind of like listening to a song or going to see a really good movie. And you're in your car and you're listening to this song, and it just evokes something or brings something up, or it sparks a curiosity in you to go deeper into yourself, or and I think that that's probably what we're trying to do, is sit around and have conversations and offer wisdom and offer knowledge, but not expertise, not telling people this is how you should be living your life, and this is what it means to be wealthy, and this is what it means to be healthy, and this is what it means to be happy.
Well, the business world's, for what I experienced, a lot of it's power. It's power over. It's that whole fear-based leadership. And when I started my entrepreneurial journey, for me, it was about the people, about engaging. It's making people feel a sense of belonging, and that's why Vertec, I guess, our journeys was successful, because we allowed people to feel part of something. And all the organizations are big clients. We work for a lot of big oil and gas clients and mining clients, and there's a real power thing, and we're the client, you're the supplier, and there's all this stuff, and it doesn't have to be like that. Like we can all have conversations. We're all worthy of being in that room. And so I found we found it really challenging, my business partner and I, to be in that space. And then when we sold Vertec and I got into this whole game of coaching, there's a bit of that as well. There's like, there's
power over people.
yeah, it's the power over. It's the expert. I'm the expert. I'm the entrepreneur. I'm the guy who sold the business. So you listen to me. And it's like, no, I learn more asking in sessions with other people than I do imparting knowledge, because you have the knowledge, it's all within yourselves. Like everyone who's listening to this right now, you all have, you have a superpower. You have this place, this expertise that you hold within yourself, and it's activating that. It's acknowledging that it's not what you're not, it's what you are. And really for me as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as an enthusiast of human excellence, as a seer of good in people, that's what I love to shatter that glass and see people recognize that, yeah, I belong or I matter.
And it's like that's basically what it is that we're here to experience as human beings. We think about what are our basic needs, and we're like, well, people could say, well, I need food and I need water and I need shelter, and all of that is true.
Beyond that.
But what we have these basic psychological needs that are just as pertinent as water and food and shelter. And that is to be seen, to be heard, and to be valued for who we are as a person, like who we genuinely are as a person. And I can relate, it's like we're from two different industries, but I relate so much to this idea of power over. So there was definitely, and I think that probably more kind of thinking, 10 plus years ago, but this expectation of me as a psychologist to hold the power in the room, to give people the answer. Like I had to hold the answer. I was the one that went to university. I was the one that had all of that knowledge. I had to show them the right way to think and the right way to feel and the right way to be in a relationship. And what happened, and you're probably experiencing the same thing as an entrepreneur, was it just didn't sit right with me. I'm not interested in having power over other people. I'm not only not interested in it, I'm actively against it. And I love this idea of being with people, experiences of facilitating connection and belonging with another human being and helping them understand the power that exists within them. Like what's their source of power, not as something that can be used over someone else, but that can be used to catalyze their own journey of growth and discovery. And so it's kind of like we were doing the same thing in two different industries and experiencing the same challenge in two different industries.
And if only more psychologists had that concept, because often it is the expert in the room. It is I have the answers, but how do you have answers within my complex being? Like you've not been through my journey. And so again, providing that, being seen and heard, that's huge. Like, you see that and all, I do junior football coaching, and there's a few kids in our team that just love that male attention. And, so I come in and I for me, it's that whole thing, and you see it happen, and these kids thrive in it. They want to be, they don't want to prove to you that, but you're allowing them to feel valued, and their sense of accomplishment is tremendous through that. So as a psychologist, it must be incredibly rewarding when you do break through and allow people to see that or access it or give themselves the permission.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing whether or not you're working as a psychologist or whether you're working with businesses or whether you're working with leaders.
Yes.
Everyone is essentially asking the same question.
Yeah.
How can I live out all of this stuff that I know is inside of me?
How can I contribute?
Yeah, how can I contribute? How can I contribute? I think that at the end of the day, we are all here to exist within a collective experience, and we each have things that we get to offer the collective. And so we think, the two of us often speak about this idea of an ecosystem. Yes. And I think it's just because we spend so much time in the natural world and we're constantly just in different ecosystems. Obviously I've spoken about being here in Wollongong in this particular little ecosystem, but I've been to Canada. It feels like almost a second home to me in some ways. And what you see in the natural world when you spend time there is that there are different species, different organisms that are existing, but they're all they're all contributing somehow. They're all bouncing off each other. They're all interdependent and they're all connected. And we lose that sometimes as human beings. We're like, no, I'm my individual human with my individual goals and my individual needs. And yes, that's true. But at the same time, you're part of an ecosystem. And that could be a partnership, it could be a family, it could be a business, a community, and a collective. And I guess trying to fight against that sense of division that we're seeing, that sense of not being a part, not belonging.
And when we try to engineer, I guess, nature, there's a universal law within these areas, and there's a reason why there's such diversity in all these places. But when we try to engineer it, let's just plant all these trees. We create an unbalance, and the same thing with us as humans, right? So when we try to take ourselves and when we remove ourselves from the tribe, when we're not seen, we're not heard, we don't feel valued, we don't feel we're contributing, or we're not allowed to contribute, and again, it's that, for me, in the business world, there's been so much power over. A lot of leaders of experience just love to invoke fear in their people, and the results, dictate that. You can't oppress people. You got to allow people to. Okay, yeah, there has to be certain rules and laws. Can't be a Lord of the Flies. Everybody,
Yeah.
Everybody runs the business. No, there has to be. There are ways of doing things, but. And I think with the collective, what we've been talking a lot about is the concept of, what is performance? What is well-being? What is growth? How do we get growth? How do we get the growth mindset? How do we create a sense of, for me lately, it's been organizational well-being. How do we create that in a business? How do we, instead of just performance, because everything's performance-based. And I think the byproduct of well-being, the byproduct of growth, the byproduct of all these, having a vision, engaging, inclusion, all these wonderful things that we feel, we must control, we must, keep everything in. The byproduct of that is performance. The byproduct, and that's what I've experienced it firsthand on many occasions, where I walk into a team and the doubt and everything was just so strong, and then after a few sessions, people start feeling open and comfortable, and all of a sudden there's amazing things are happening. Conversations within that organization occur after I've left, because we're allowing a platform for people to, I guess, to be seen, heard, and
and we're finding that balance between well-being. So we all want to experience a sense of well-being, but we also want to achieve things in the world. We also want to contribute in the world, and so we're finding this balance. Because if it's all just about how can I feel good,
yes. Yeah.
we're not asking other questions about how can I be good and how can I do good and how can I contribute. But if we're only asking how can I contribute and how can I achieve, and we're not also asking how can I feel okay in my own human, we're kind of missing the piece of the puzzle. And so this is where I feel like the innovation and contribution that comes from entrepreneurship, when we couple that with the well-being focus and the human condition focus that comes with psychology, and we bring those things together and we find a way that they become fused and married together, then we see something really powerful happening. Because I also see the flip side that's happening in psychology at the moment is sometimes it's like, how do I feel good at all costs? And it's like, this kind of good vibes only, I have to feel happy all the time, I can never have a bad day. Like this is just as toxic, as some of those other thoughts in psychology. And so what I guess I'm really interested in is, how do we pursue a well-being agenda as well as an innovation, contribution, achievement agenda? And how can we do it as a collective and as an ecosystem that is operating in harmony? Like these are the questions, I guess, that we're kind of grappling with in what we're doing in the Discovery Collective. And perhaps why we wanted to even come on here and have a podcast in the first place is to just explore these questions, not with necessarily some kind of straightforward answer, but as something that hopefully sparks some thought in people.
And no real agenda either. I think we're just, and because we're normally used to doing videos, so it's kind of a visual thing, and we're trying to, there'll be a video of these conversations, but at the moment it's just been wonderful just having this open informed conversation on all these topics. And as we progress through these podcasts, I think we'll explore these more. But because coming from the place, what I need, what can I, how can I get the most out of this experience? And this is what I ask myself all the time. I'm always kind of, working on bettering myself on every I not often get it, as you said earlier. We have to be happy, good vibes only, all of this stuff. Like you gotta have bad days. You need to have times where you got to question yourselves, or I've done something really silly again, being the village idiot. I'm genetically designed to have fun at times, and I really seek that, and then and sometimes it comes at a cost, and then when I find myself kind of in that place where I'm just thinking, oh, that was dumb, it's like, good, that's a lesson. How can I learn from that?
Exactly. So it's like shedding this idea that we're limitless, that we can achieve anything, or that we can be happy all the time, or that we never need to have a negative thought. I mean, this is denying us our ability to fully experience what it is to be human in the world. And we talk a lot about this concept of interference, so that every single person in the world is experiencing some thing within inside them, a thought, an emotion, a habit, something that is interfering with their capacity in that moment to be happy, to be well, to achieve. And that interference isn't something for us to get rid of. We're not trying to obliterate interference. We're trying to accept that that's actually part of the human experience, and how can we live with it and dance with it in a way that fosters our well-being and our humanity.
It's creating that relationship again. If you look back at the laws of nature, there's you got wolves and deers, and you got things. It lives within. There's predators and prey and victims, and it all works through. But this whole concept of, that's a bit of a tangent, but this whole concept of best at all costs and all these things, but we are limited, but we can become better versions of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And it's not an excuse. It's like, oh, well, Dennis and Emily said it, we're limited, so therefore I can sit here and wallow and continue. It's like, no, you're not going to get away with that.
We still, I think, and I think we have, I don't think it's an obligation or a duty as such, but we have some responsibility, I think, as people in the world, to investigate what our potential is, so that we can offer that as some form of contribution, not only to ourselves and our immediate family, but to our communities, and to our nation and to our globe.
And for me, I think that's part of my calling is to seek that within others. Yeah. I think for you as well, we wouldn't be doing this if we weren't.
Yeah.
Those the guides to self, or guides to, you're a guide of light. You're one of these people that finds a light, that finds that spark. In the darkest times, you'll always find this little shimmering glow somewhere, and people need that. We need guides, and I think that's what we're missing. Again, is having these experts and these influencers. And we live in a time where YouTubers are paying, the world's best boxer to go box with him they're paying him $100 million or something ridiculous. It's just such a spectacle. And I'm watching this going, wow, this is just insane. Like, how has it come to this, where, just somebody, or, I don't want to say nobody, because nobody's a nobody, but there's a guy who's influencing so many millions of people and able to create these outrageous spectacles. And we live in a crazy time, and it's a wonderful time. It's a challenging time, especially with the COVID thing and everything that we've all, whether you're, whatever side of the fence you are on this thing, but it's really interesting. It's creating a lot of division, and this is what led me to get rid of all my apps at the moment, because I just needed a little bit of space to just think. I was at the doctor's surgery the other day, and I just sat there. People probably looked at me like, look at that psychopath.
Doing,
he's looking at us. What's wrong with him?
Sitting there, not doing anything, staring off into space. I feel like I spent probably the first 18 years of life sort of doing that, because there weren't phones and whatnot. So and hopefully that's what these, I think, podcasts hopefully offer people, is a bit of space from some noise, and thinking about how perhaps you can not only be a consumer of this kind of conversation and this kind of content, for lack of a better word, but that you can also create these moments for yourself. So, you know, Dennis and I are creating these moments with each other now, but thinking about for yourself, how can you go and create these sort of campfire moments where you're just sitting around chatting with someone that is on the same level as you know, then you're having rich conversations and you're joking around and you're sharing wisdom and knowledge and growing together and just leaving the noise and the expertise aside for a little while. And I guess that's our hope, is that we're creating that space and encouraging you to do the same.
And sharing your challenges, you know, and as you know, we're a new generation of people now, and I catch up with a lot of my friends, and we talk about the burden, we talk about the challenge, you know, the burden of fatherhood and parenting, and you know, like a lot of my friends, there are a lot of people seeking at the moment, you know, there's more, and then especially get at this stage of your life, you know, I'm in my mid-50s, you think, wow, is this it? You know, like when I was a child, when I was 15, 16, if I'd written up what it'd be like to be 54 years of age, would it be this? And, you
Yeah.
know, and I never wanted more than anything I have today anyway, but I've always approached that. For me, it was about the experience and sharing that, but having these conversations, these rich conversations, I find there's a lot of value in it. And I certainly enjoy listening to other people's podcasts. So
Yeah.
I thought this would be a great little segue from our videos to sharing some of these chats together.
And thank you for your attention. Like, if you're still kind of listening to us chatting about random philosophical musings, we live in a time where our attention is probably one of our greatest assets, and something that we usually give away willy-nilly to whatever. You know, we give it away to mindless activity sometimes, and we're not the guardian of our own attention. We just flippantly offer it to anyone and everyone. And so if you have been, you know, kind enough to offer us your attention, we value that. That's a beautiful gift that you can give to somebody. And hopefully that attention that you have offered to this conversation has supported you to think about something, or supported or sparked an idea in your own mind, or encouraged you to go away and have a chat with an old friend, and see what you can share and learn and how you can grow.
Share and learn. That's what it's about.
Share and learn.
Share and
That's
learn.
what it's all about. This is number one
Number one, first podcast. Oh, cool.
How many, right? We're not here to...
No. But we'll try to do them regularly. We're going to try to do them every week if we can, or every second week. I think it's really important that we continue doing this. We're doing some really wonderful work. We've got another person working with us, Virginia. We'll have to get her on board one day.
Yeah.
And, see how all that works. But thank you so much for your time, guys, and sharing that with us. And we look forward to speaking to you shortly.
See you next time, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.